I wish you'd never been my father. You're useless. All you do is pressure me." Those were the last words my son said to me before he hung up, and I promise you, what I did after hearing those words changed our lives forever. Before I go on, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell because we post new stories every day. Leave your like, and tell us in the comments which U.S. city you're watching from. My name is Richard Miller. I'm 65, and for the last 3 years I've lived through the most painful experience a father can face, raising a son alone after losing the love of my life. Susan, my wife, passed away from cancer in March 2021, leaving a hole in my chest and the full responsibility of guiding our only son, Andrew, who was 21 at the time, and in his second year of business administration at a university in Chicago. That Tuesday in September 2024, I decided to call Andrew like I did every week. It was my routine after Susan died. Check on his classes, ask if he needed anything, keep a father-son connection that felt more fragile with each passing month. I dialed his number while making my afternoon coffee, expecting a normal chat, maybe to hear about his courses or weekend plans. "Hey, son," I said when he picked up. "How's everything at school? It's September already, and I wanted to see how your final year is shaping up." There was an awkward pause on the other end. Andrew took his time, and when he finally spoke, his voice sounded tight, irritated. "Everything's fine, Dad. Normal." Something in his tone set off alarms. In these years, I'd learned to read between the lines, to hear what he wasn't saying, an instinct I picked up as a single parent trying to be both mom and dad. "You sure? You sound, I don't know, different. Classes going okay? Grades?" Another pause, longer this time. "Look, Dad, I don't have time for an interrogation. I'm busy." "Andrew, it's not an interrogation. I just worry about you," I said. "You know your education matters to me, especially after all we've been through since your mom." "Oh, please," he cut in, sharp as a knife. "Always the same. Mom this, mom that. It's been 3 years, Dad." His words hit me like a slap. He had never, ever spoken about Susan that way, never shown that kind of disrespect for her memory. Something cracked inside me, but I stayed calm. "Son, I just want to know how your classes are going. Simple question." "Fine. I told you they're fine. Can we end this?" "Andrew, please. I can tell something's off. If there's a problem, we can fix it together. That's how it's always been." I heard a deep breath, then a silence that chilled my blood. When he spoke again, his voice was cold in a way I'd never heard. "You want the truth? I failed 3 classes. 3. I have to retake them, which means I'm graduating a full year late. Happy now?" The world fell on me. 3 failed classes meant that all my sacrifices, all the money I'd poured into his education, the condo I bought near campus so he wouldn't waste time commuting, the car I put at his disposal, had been for nothing. "Andrew, this is serious. We need to talk about what went wrong and how we can—" "No," he shouted. "We're not talking about anything. I'm sick of your lectures, your constant pressure, your need to control everything." "Son, calm down. I'm not controlling you. I'm worried about your future after everything we've invested in your education." "Invested? Invested?" His voice broke with rage and sarcasm. "It's always about money with you. You never miss a chance to remind me what you spend on me." "That's not true, and you know it," I said. "Every dollar I've put into you has been with love, to give you the best shot possible." And then he said the words that changed everything between us. "I wish you'd never been my father. Useless. All you do is pressure me and make me feel guilty. I wish Mom were alive so I wouldn't have to deal with you." The silence that followed was deafening. It felt like a knife twisting slowly in my heart. The boy I'd raised with so much love, especially these last 3 years without Susan, had just said he wished I'd never been his father. He hung up without another word. I sat in my chair with the phone still in my hand, trying to process what I'd just heard. In that moment, I made a decision that would change our lives forever. The hours after that call were the hardest since Susan's funeral. I stayed in my favorite chair, the one where she and I used to plan our family's future, and watched the afternoon shadows slide across the floor of my quiet house. My hands trembled as I held a photo of Andrew graduating from high school. In that picture, he was hugging me with a huge smile, eyes bright with pride and gratitude. It was June 2018, just 2 years before Susan got sick. I remember that day perfectly. I cried when he walked the stage to get his diploma, and he ran straight into my arms afterward. "Thanks for everything, Dad. Without you and Mom, none of this would be possible," he'd whispered. What happened to that grateful young man? When did he become someone capable of saying something so cruel? My mind replayed the last 3 years in painful detail. When Susan was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in January 2021, our world fell apart. Andrew was 21, a sophomore. The doctor said she had 6 to 12 months. We decided Andrew shouldn't interrupt school because of his mom's illness. During those months, while Susan faded day by day, I became nurse, driver, cook, and counselor. I took her to chemo, handled her medications, comforted her through nights of unbearable pain, and still tried to keep Andrew focused on his classes. I sent him extra money so he wouldn't have to work and could concentrate on school. When Susan died in March 2021, Andrew came home for 2 weeks for the funeral and those first days of grief. He cried in my arms and promised we'd do this together, that he'd be the best student he could be to honor his mother's memory. "Dad, I know everything depends on you now. I won't let you down. I'll graduate with strong grades, so Mom's proud of me up there," he'd said as he packed to return to campus. Keeping my promise to support him, I sold Susan's car and, along with a big chunk of my retirement savings, bought him a 2-bedroom condo near the university in Chicago. It cost $245,000, but I knew it was an investment in his future. I explained I'd keep the deed in my name for legal and tax reasons, but the condo was his to use as long as he was in school. 6 months later, I noticed he was spending a lot on rides, so I bought him a used but reliable 2019 Toyota Corolla in excellent shape for $17,500. Again, I titled it in my name on my attorney's advice, but Andrew had full use of the car. During 2022 and 2023, our weekly calls were polite but shallow. He told me about classes, friends, weekend plans. I sent him money every month for groceries, utilities, and entertainment. He never complained, never asked for more, and his grades, according to him, were solid. But as I reviewed these memories through the harsh clarity of betrayal, I saw signs I'd ignored. The last 6 months he'd grown more distant. His answers were shorter, vaguer. If I asked about specific classes, he pivoted to social events or minor apartment issues. I remembered a May conversation where he casually mentioned a problem with a corporate finance professor, but refused to give details. In June, when I asked about semester grades, he said not all marks were posted yet. In July, he dodged academics entirely and talked only about a beach trip he'd taken with friends to Miami. My stomach twisted as I realized he'd probably been lying for months. These failed classes weren't new. They'd been brewing since last semester, maybe longer. I got up and went to my study, where I keep all our family documents. I pulled the condo deed and the car papers from the file cabinet. There it was, in black and white. Richard Miller, legal owner of both. A mix of pain and resolve began to build in my chest. My son hadn't just lied about his grades, he'd capped it off with the most hurtful words a father can hear. He wished I'd never been his dad, after everything I'd sacrificed for him, especially in the years after losing Susan. I checked the clock. It was 7:30 p.m., 5 hours since that devastating call. In those 5 hours, I'd relived every sacrifice, every dollar invested in his future, every sleepless night worrying while he enjoyed a comfortable life on my dime. and apparently mocked my efforts behind my back. I picked up my phone and scrolled to the contact from my attorney of 15 years, Joseph Parker. It was late, but I knew he'd understand the urgency. Before I dialed, I took a breath and made the hardest decision of my life as a father. It was time for Andrew to learn the real value of things and the real weight of words spoken to those who love us unconditionally. With fingers still shaking from anger, I called Joseph. The phone rang 3 times before his familiar voice came on. "Richard, good evening. How are you? It's a bit late. Everything all right?" Joseph had been our family attorney since 2009. He handled the purchase of our home, Susan's will, and he'd advised me to keep Andrew's condo and car in my name for legal and tax protection. He's my age, meticulous, steady, and thoughtful. "Joseph, I need you to begin proceedings tomorrow morning to sell the condo on West Taylor Street and the 2019 Toyota Corolla, both titled to me." Silence stretched on his end. I could picture him adjusting his glasses the way he does when processing big news. "Richard, that's a drastic step. Did something happen with Andrew? Last time we talked, you said school was going well." My son's words rang in my head. "I wish you'd never been my father. Useless." "Joseph, he just told me he wishes I'd never been his father, after everything I've sacrificed since Susan died. He failed 3 classes and has been lying for months, but what I can't forgive are those words." "I understand your pain," Joseph said, "but selling those assets is irreversible. Maybe give it a few days? Emotions are high." I've had 5 hours to think about it, and I'm decided. Andrew needs a lesson he won't forget about respect and consequences. Those properties were paid for with my retirement savings and the money from selling Susan's car. If he wishes he'd never had a father like me, he can live as if that were true. Joseph sighed. He knows me well enough to hear when my mind's made up. "All right, Richard, I'll help, but please understand the implications. The condo's in a desirable area. We could sell quickly, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. The car will be easier, maybe a week. Once we start, it'll be hard to reverse." "That's exactly what I want. No reversals, no cheap second chances. My son needs to understand that words have weight, especially when you throw them at the person who gave you life and sacrificed everything for you." "What about his housing? You can't leave him on the street," Joseph asked. That made me pause. As angry and determined as I felt, he was still my son. My goal wasn't to destroy him, but to teach him the value of what he'd taken for granted. "Look for small rentals farther from campus, basic places, no frills. If he shows he's learned and truly changes, I might help with rent for a limited time, but he'll have to earn it." "Understood. I'll start appraisals tomorrow. Discreetly, or do you want Andrew to know?" I want it to be a complete surprise. Let him feel the same shock I felt hearing those cruel words. For years I've been predictable, always rescuing him, always giving. It's time he learned actions have real consequences. "As your attorney, I have to ask," Joseph said. "Are you ready for the fallout? Andrew will react badly." I closed my eyes and heard Andrew's voice again. "I wish you'd never been my father. Useless." The knife twisted again, but my mind felt clear. For 3 years, I've been both parents to that boy. I sacrificed my comfort, my savings, my quiet retirement plan, so he'd have the best chance after losing his mom. And today he told me he wished I'd never been in his life. If that's how he feels, it's time he sees what life is like without my support. "I understand. I'll have documents ready in the next few days," Joseph said. "Document the reasons for your decision, just in case we need to justify any of this later." "Will do. One more thing. Start scouting basic rentals in neighborhoods like Portage Park or Jefferson Park. Nothing fancy, but decent. If Andrew shows genuine remorse and change, I'll consider covering 6 months of rent. No more." "Got it? Anything else?" "That's all. I'll expect your call with updates." After I hung up, I made tea. My hands had stopped shaking. The decision was made, and for the first time in hours, I felt a strange peace mixed with deep sadness. While the water boiled, I reviewed the property documents again. $245,000 for the condo, $17,500 for the car, $295,000 poured into giving my son comfort and opportunity, money from decades of honest work, and the sacrifice of selling Susan's last tangible reminder. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Dad, sorry for hanging up. I was stressed about exams. Let's talk tomorrow." I read it 3 times. Classic Andrew. A surface-level apology that didn't touch the gravity of what he'd said, sent hours later when he realized he'd gone too far. But it was too late. The legal machinery was already in motion. I didn't reply. The next morning, Joseph started the valuations. Within a week or 2, my son would find out that words have real consequences, and that the father he'd insulted so cruelly was the one who'd provided everything he had. It was time for Andrew to learn what it really means to have a father who loves you, even when that love requires hard decisions. The following days moved with a strange mix of normal routines and quiet resolve. Each morning I ate breakfast while Joseph texted updates. Appraiser visiting condo tomorrow. 3 interested buyers already. Corolla appraisal this afternoon. But there was something else I needed to confirm before the process went all the way through. I needed to understand my son's real situation beyond the lies about school. Friday afternoon, I called my lifelong friend, Michael Rogers, my closest confidant since Susan died. Michael and I met in college, were best men at each other's weddings, and he was a rock during Susan's illness. Most important, his son Daniel attends the same university as Andrew. They bump into each other at campus events now and then. "Michael, I need a delicate favor," I said when he picked up. "Of course, Richard. What do you need?" "Could you ask Daniel what he knows about Andrew's campus life? Who he hangs out with, how he spends, how he's living? Discreetly, please. Michael knows me well and heard the weight in my voice. Did something serious happen with Andrew?" I told him about Tuesday's call, skipping the details about the sales. Michael listened in silence, then sighed. "I'm sorry, Richard. A child's words can cut deeper than anything. I'll talk to Daniel tonight and call you tomorrow." I barely slept. My mind swung between the sting of Andrew's cruelty and anxiety about what else I'd discover. Was he partying, overspending? Were those the reasons for his academic mess? Saturday morning, Michael called. "Richard, I talked to Daniel. You're not going to like this." My stomach knotted. "Tell me everything, Michael. I need the truth." According to Daniel, Andrew's been living pretty carefree for the past year. Parties 3 or 4 nights a week, fancy restaurants, constant designer clothes. He brags about the condo his dad bought and the car he drives. Each word was a hammer blow. What else? He's told people you're easy to handle, that you always send money without asking many questions. Daniel remembers a specific line. "My dad's naive. He thinks I'm the perfect student and gives me anything I want." The pain hardened into a cold, focused anger. He wasn't just wasting my money, he was mocking me. "Anything about academics?" I asked. "Yeah, this is the worst part. This is the, months ago, he told people he'd failed some classes last term, but said it wasn't a big deal because, quote, my dad never finds out the real grades, and there's always a way to smooth things over. That was devastating. He wasn't stumbling. He was calculating. He knew I'd keep funding his lifestyle if he kept me in the dark. One more thing, Michael added. 2 weeks ago, Andrew was bragging about a pricey trip he's planning to Miami next month with friends. He booked a 5-star hotel. A 5-star Miami trip, paid with the money I sent for groceries and school. My son had turned my generosity into his personal entertainment fund. After hanging up, I sat on the back patio looking over the garden Susan loved. Her roses still bloomed every spring, and they always reminded me of her life philosophy. Richard, real love sometimes requires difficult decisions, especially when you're raising a child. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty my decision was right. This wasn't revenge. It was educational justice. Andrew had abused my trust, burned resources from decades of work, and finished it off by insulting me in the most painful way. My phone rang. It was Joseph. "Richard, great news on the sales. We've got 2 firm offers on the condo. $255,000 and $245,500. The Corolla has a buyer at $18,000. We can close both next week." "Perfect, Joseph. Take the higher offer and move forward with the car. You're absolutely sure once we sign there's no going back." I thought about Michael's words. My dad's naive. There's always a way to fix things, easy to handle. I thought about the 5-star trip and those cruel words. "Wish you'd never been my father." I'm absolutely sure. My son needs to learn that actions have real consequences and that respect isn't optional in a family. That afternoon, while organizing papers in my study, I found a letter Andrew wrote me in 2022, soon after the first anniversary of Susan's death. "Dad, I'll never be able to thank you enough for everything you've done. I promise to make you proud and honor Mom's memory with my academic achievements." I slid that letter into the same drawer as the deeds that would soon no longer be tied to Andrew's life. In a week, maybe less, my son would learn that the naive father had made the toughest decision of his life. The second week of October moved with surprising efficiency. Joseph reminded me why he's considered one of the best real estate attorneys in Chicago. Every day brought precise updates, and each one confirmed that my decision was steadily becoming reality. On Monday, he told me the Robinson family had raised their condo offer to $258,000. A young couple with 2 small kids, both professionals, needing to move closer to work in the near West Side. Ironically, they wanted exactly what Andrew had, a comfortable, well-located place to start their next chapter. On Wednesday, the Corolla sold to a rideshare driver who'd saved for years to buy his own vehicle. "18,000 paid," Joseph said. The man, around 40, thanked me again and again during the signing, explaining that the car meant true financial independence. It hurt to think how Andrew had taken that same car for granted when, for someone else, it was the dream of a lifetime. Those days, I ran a quiet little observation project to confirm my worst suspicions. I made a simple, anonymous Instagram account and followed Andrew's circle. What I saw beat my most pessimistic expectations. On Wednesday night, while I was signing away his car, Andrew was at a high-end restaurant in River North celebrating a friend's birthday. The photos showed plates easily over $100 per person, imported wine, elaborate desserts. In the comments he'd written, "Life's too short not to enjoy the good stuff." On Thursday, he posted a story showing a brand-name dress shirt he'd just bought. I recognized it. Hugo Boss, no less than $400. In the video, he said proudly, "I earned this after a tough week at university." On Friday, he popped up in friends' stories at an exclusive bar in Wicker Park, drinking premium whiskey and laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. One shot showed him toasting with a grin that didn't hint at the slightest regret for the words he'd flung at me just a week earlier. But the last straw came Saturday morning. Andrew posted a photo from a motorcycle dealership, standing next to a Yamaha MT-07 that, as I later checked, runs around 8,000 used. His caption, "Thinking about trading the car for something more exciting. What do you think?" In that moment, I understood he hadn't just forgotten our fight. He was making major life decisions without me, using assets that technically weren't his. That afternoon, Joseph called with the final update. "Richard, everything's ready. The condo buyers want to sign on Tuesday next week. The car title transfer is done. I just need your final okay to send the notice to vacate. Joseph, I want the notice delivered Wednesday morning. Formal, legal, no misunderstandings." "Understood. The notice will state he has 48 hours to vacate because the property has been sold by the legal owner. Have you thought about how you'll handle his reaction? I'd focused so hard on the legal steps that I hadn't fully considered the emotional explosion to come. But every time I replayed, "Wish you'd never been my father," and then saw his carefree posts, my resolve hardened. "Andrew will take it badly," I said. "He'll call, scream, call me cruel. But this isn't revenge. It's a lesson I should have taught long ago." "I hear you," Joseph said. "Just be prepared for long-term family consequences." The long-term consequences of not doing this would be worse. He's been living in a bubble funded by me, mocking my trust, wasting chances, and he capped it off by cutting me to the bone. If not now, when? Sunday, I decided to check the condo one last time. I had keys. It was legally mine. But I'd never used them out of respect for Andrew's privacy. Circumstances had changed. I got to the building at 10 a.m., knowing he'd be sleeping off another Saturday night. The place was exactly as I imagined. Messy, expensive clothes thrown everywhere, fridge full of gourmet items, study desk empty of books but covered in pricey gadgets. In his room, restaurant receipts, designer store bags, concert tickets, the paper trail of a lifestyle completely disconnected from a student who'd just failed 3 classes. Even the bathroom had products that cost more than many people make in a week. Walking through that condo I'd bought out of fatherly love, I felt a mix of sadness and release. Sadness for the relationship I thought we had. Release for finally confirming that my decision was necessary and justified. On Tuesday, Joseph texted, "Signed condo officially sold. Notice will be delivered tomorrow at 9 a.m. That night, for the first time in 2 weeks, I slept deeply. The next day, my son would learn that words have real consequences and that the father he had disrespected so cruelly had more dignity and backbone than he ever imagined. Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, is a date I'll never forget. At 8:45 a.m., while I was quietly having breakfast on the back patio and reading the paper, my phone rang. "Richard," Joseph said, "the process server just arrived at Andrew's building. Within 15 minutes, he'll be knocking with the notice." I felt a strange mix of nerves and resolve. After 2.5 weeks of careful steps, the moment had arrived. I poured a second cup of coffee and waited. I didn't wait long. At 9:47 a.m., my phone started ringing non-stop. It was Andrew. I let it ring out. It rang again and again. On the 4th try, I answered. "Dad, what the hell's going on?" His voice was panicked, almost hysterical. "There's a guy at my door saying I have 48 hours to get out because the condo was sold. This has to be a mistake." "It's not a mistake, Andrew." "What do you mean it's not a mistake? This is my condo. You told me it was mine." "I told you that you could use it while you studied responsibly. The title has always been in my name, as you know." Silence. I could hear him breathing hard. "Dad, I don't get it. Is this about our fight last week? I already apologized." "You texted me hours later," I said. "You told me you wished I'd never been your father. That's not an apology. It's damage control." "Dad, I was stressed. I wasn't serious." The words we say when we're stressed are often the most honest. They show what's really in our hearts. I heard background noise, footsteps. "Dad, please, this is crazy. You can't do this. Where am I going to live? How am I supposed to get to class?" "Andrew, I've been looking into your real situation. I know about the luxury dinners, the designer clothes, the late nights, and the plan to buy an 8,000 motorcycle. I also know you've been lying about your grades for months." Another long, tight silence. "Have you been spying on me?" "I've verified how you spent the money I sent every month for food and school. The money from my retirement and from selling your mother's car." "Dad, I can explain." "You don't need to. The photos explain. The $400 shirt explains. The premium whiskey on Friday explains." I heard him start to cry. "Dad, please. I know I messed up, but you can't leave me with nothing. I'm your son." "Exactly. I said softly. You are my son. And as your father, it's my job to teach you that actions have consequences, that respect isn't optional, and that money isn't infinite. This is too extreme, he said. You can't take everything away all at once. Extreme? Do you know what's extreme, Andrew? A father works 30 years, saves every dollar, sells his late wife's car to buy you a condo, and you tell him you wish he'd never been your father. That's extreme. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, he sounded like a scared child. What about my car? The Corolla was sold last Wednesday to a driver who worked years to afford it. You sold my car? He screamed. I sold my car that you used because I was generous. I'm calling a lawyer. Call whoever you want. Both assets were legally mine. I have every document, every bill of sale, every bank record. I haven't broken any laws, and neither have you. The call ended. He'd hung up. For the next 30 minutes, my phone rang 14 more times. I didn't answer. Then the texts began. Dad, please, let's talk. You can't do this to me. I'm your only son. What would Mom think? I promise I'll change. Please, Dad. I read each one, but didn't reply. At 11:30 a.m., Joseph called. Richard, the notice was served properly. Andrew signed for it, although he was very upset. Technically, he has until Friday at 9 a.m. to vacate. Perfect, I said. Can the new owners take possession right away? Yes. The Robinsons already have keys and can move Friday afternoon. At 1:15 p.m., Andrew called again. This time I picked up. Dad, I'm standing outside the university admin building. I talked to the academic coordinator. If I don't pay next term's tuition by October 30th, I lose my spot. How much is the balance, Andrew? $3,800. Interesting. That's about the price of the motorcycle you were eyeing. Silence. Now you see your priorities, son? Dad, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. You need to think. Think about the choices that brought you here. Think about the words you said. Think about the respect you lost for me and for your mother's memory. What am I supposed to do now? For the first time in 2.5 weeks, I heard real vulnerability. Not manipulation, not drama, but fear. That's something you'll have to figure out, like any 24-year-old who doesn't have a father to insult and a bank account to tap. I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time since Susan died, I felt free of the weight I'd been carrying. My son would face the consequences of his words and actions, and I could finally start to heal the wounds he'd opened. Friday at 6:30 a.m., my doorbell wouldn't stop ringing. I glanced out the window and saw a taxi pull away. There was Andrew at my front door. I wasn't surprised. In 48 hours, he'd tried every way to reach me. Calls, texts, even emails. I figured he'd show up when nothing else worked. I dressed slowly, ate a calm breakfast, and only after finishing my coffee did I open the door. He'd been pacing in the yard for half an hour. The sight of him stunned me. He looked nothing like the confident, carefree young man from last week's photos. His eyes were swollen and red. His usually sharp outfits were wrinkled. He had 2 big suitcases and a backpack. "Dad," he said in a broken voice I barely recognized. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then, to my shock, he dropped to his knees right there on the lawn, bags falling to either side. "Dad, please forgive me. I'm on my knees because I know I've been a terrible son. What I said to you was unforgivable." Seeing my 24-year-old son kneeling in tears stirred complicated emotions. Part of me, the instinctive father, wanted to pick him up and say it would be okay. But the part of me he'd wounded reminded me why we were here. "Get up, Andrew. You don't get your dignity back by kneeling." He stood slowly, wiping his face on his sleeve. "Dad, I know I messed up. I wasted the money you sent. I lied about my grades. What I said was cruel and inexcusable. But please, give me a chance to make it right." "Where did you sleep last night?" I asked. "At the Jefferson Park Transit Center. I didn't have money for a hotel." That hit me harder than I expected. A week ago, he'd been planning to buy an 8,000 motorcycle. Last night, he slept on a bench. "In the electronics store where you worked part-time?" "I quit 2 months ago," he admitted, looking down. "I figured I didn't need it because you always sent money. It was a stupid decision." 2 months ago? So every expensive purchase these last weeks was funded only by my money? "Yes," he whispered. "It's true." "And the friends you took to fancy restaurants and exclusive bars? Where are they now?" I called a bunch. Some didn't answer. Others said they couldn't help. Daniel, the one I thought was closest, texted, "Man, I still live off my parents. I can't take anyone else in." Reality was sinking in. The people who enjoyed his generosity when money flowed had vanished when he needed help. "Andrew, hear me. For 3 years, since your mother died, I've sacrificed my comfort, my savings, my retirement, everything, to give you the best chance. I know, Dad. I was ungrateful." "Don't interrupt," I said gently but firmly. "I sold Susan's car, my last tangible memory of her, to buy you that condo. I used money I saved for decades to give you a comfortable life. You not only wasted it, you hurt me in the worst way." He started crying again. I didn't mean those words. I was frustrated and scared about the classes I failed. The words we say under pressure are often the most honest. They show what we truly think. "No, Dad, that's not true. You've been the best father anyone could have, especially after Mom died. If you really believed that, those words would never have left your mouth, no matter how frustrated you were." He took a step toward me, hands open. "Please give me a chance to prove I can change, to be the son you deserve." "It's too late for promises," I said. "For months you lied about your grades. For months you burned through my money on luxuries. And you ended it with words a son should never say to his father. What do I have to do for you to forgive me? Work? Study harder? Pay you back? Tell me." His desperation was real, but promises made in crisis often evaporate when things get easy. "Forgiveness isn't a blessing I hand out, Andrew. It's earned by consistent action over time, and right now your situation will force you to show who you are." "I can't do this alone," he said. "I have no money, no job, no place to live." Millions of young adults your age face those same challenges every day. The difference is they haven't had a father solving their problems for 24 years. "So that's it?" he asked, voice shaking. "I'm not your son anymore?" That cut straight through me. For all my resolve, he was still my only child, the only family I had left. "You'll always be my son," I said. "But being my son doesn't give you the right to lie, disrespect me, and abuse my generosity. Is there any way to fix this?" I took a deep breath. I'd thought about this possibility these last few weeks, on my terms, not his. "There's one way, and it comes with strict conditions." His eyes brightened with hope. "Tell me. I'll accept anything. First, you'll live in a basic rental in a modest neighborhood, away from campus. I'll pay the rent for 6 months, but you must get a job immediately to cover food, transportation, and personal expenses." I accept. Second, no luxuries, no pricey outings, no designer clothes. You'll learn to live with essentials. I accept. Third, you will pass all your classes with a 3.5 GPA or better. If you fail one course, my support ends. I accept. And most important, during these 6 months, you'll prove with actions, not words, that you've changed, that you understand respect, effort, and gratitude. I'll do it, I promise. Don't promise me anything, Andrew. Just do it. For the first time in 3 weeks, I saw a faint, honest smile. Does this mean you're giving me a chance? It means I'm giving you the chance to earn a second chance. That Friday afternoon, Joseph and I looked for housing that matched my criteria. I was clear, basic, and modest. Enough to teach Andrew the value of things without being cruel. We found a small 2-story place in Portage Park, about 40 minutes from campus by CTA. Simple layout, living room, kitchen, and bathroom downstairs, 2 small bedrooms upstairs. No luxuries, but clean and functional. Rent was $200, a fraction of the costs near campus. "You sure this is what you want for Andrew?" Joseph asked as we reviewed the lease. "It's a big change from the condo." That's the point. He needs to understand the difference between privilege and normal, and between what you earn and what you're given. Saturday morning, I took Andrew to see it. His expression told the story. He looked disappointed at the neighborhood, the cracked sidewalks, the modest homes, so different from the polished streets he'd known. "I'm supposed to live here?" he asked, half in disbelief, half in resignation. "You'll live here if you accept my terms. If you don't, you can find your own place with your own resources." We walked through quietly. The living room had a basic couch and a small table. The kitchen had only the essentials, a 2-burner stove, a small fridge, basic utensils. Each bedroom had a single bed, a simple closet, and a small desk. "There's no TV," Andrew noted. "You don't need one," I said. "You need to focus on studying and working." "What about internet?" "Basic internet, enough for assignments and job applications." After the tour, we sat in the living room to spell out the rules. "I'll cover rent for exactly 6 months, November 2024 through April 2025. In that time, you must get a job and prove you can cover your basic expenses." "What kind of job?" "Any honest job. Server, cashier, stockroom, assistant, doesn't matter. The goal is to learn what earning feels like." I pulled out a notebook and wrote the conditions. "First, you'll have a job by November 15th. If not, support ends immediately. Second, you'll pay your tuition with money you earn. I won't fund another month until you show you value it." He went pale. "Dad, tuition's almost $4,000. That's hard to save with an entry-level job." "Exactly. It'll be hard. And that difficulty will teach you to value every dollar. It'll make you think twice before buying a $400 shirt or ordering a $100 steak." "Continue," he said quietly. "Third, no credit cards, no loans, no borrowing from friends or family. You spend what you earn. Fourth, you'll send me a weekly report of your expenses, income, and grades. Total transparency. Fifth, no parties, bars, expensive restaurants, brand name splurges, nothing that isn't necessary." "And my social life?" he asked, worried. "Your social life will be studying, working, and maybe a free activity on weekends, the kind most people your age can afford." I handed him the notebook with the written rules. "These aren't negotiable. If you break one, my support ends." He read them twice, serious. "And after 6 months, if I follow everything? If after 6 months you show real change, steady work, good grades, responsible money management, and above all, respect and genuine gratitude, then we'll talk about rebuilding our relationship." "But you're not giving me the condo or the car back, are you?" "The condo and car are gone. They were sold because of your actions. If in the future, after a long time and real change, you want help to buy a place or a vehicle, that'll be a new decision on new terms." He was quiet for a long time, absorbing it. "There's no way to speed this up? To prove I've changed faster?" "Real change doesn't happen in days or weeks. It happens over months, through hard choices, through learning to value what you took for granted. And if I fail? If I don't get a job on time? If I fail a class? Then you're not ready to be treated as a responsible adult, and you'll have to find your own way." The harshness was intentional. He had to know this was his last real chance, not a game or a negotiation. "Can I ask something?" he said. "Do you still love me, Dad?" That disarmed me. A knot formed in my throat. I took a few seconds. "Andrew, I love you deeply, but loving a child doesn't mean allowing disrespect and lies. Sometimes love means making hard choices so they grow. Do you think I can do it? Really change? Honestly, I don't know. I hope so. We signed the lease that afternoon. Andrew moved into the Portage Park house on Sunday with the clothes in his suitcases and a few textbooks. At the door, we shared a brief but meaningful hug. Thank you for this opportunity, Dad. Don't thank me. Prove it. Driving back, I felt a blend of sadness and hope. My son finally had the chance to show what he was made of, without the safety net I had always provided. The next 6 months would show whether the painful lessons of the last weeks had taken root, or whether I had to accept that I'd lost him for good. Andrew's first weekly reports arrived every Sunday, right on time. The first, on November 5th, 2024, was brutally simple. Dad, week 1, income, $0, still job hunting. Expenses, $47, bus fare for interviews, basic food, remaining cash, $125, academic status, unable to register classes until tuition is paid. Notes, interviewed at 8 places in Chicago. 3 said they'll call, 5 rejected me. It hurt to picture my son pounding the pavement, getting turned down, counting every dollar. But I also knew this was exactly what he needed, to finally learn the value of money and effort. The second report brought better news. Dad, week 2, income, $0, but I got a job. Expenses, $52, bus fare, food. Bought secondhand clothes for work. Remaining, $73. Academic status, still not registered. Notes, hired at Kroger as a cashier, start Monday. Schedule, Monsat 7 a.m., 4 p.m., pay, $200 month. Reading secondhand clothes hit me hard. A month earlier, he'd bought a $400 shirt. Now he was thrifting for work clothes. But I also felt a glimmer of pride. He got the job himself. The third report showed a real shift. Dad, week 3, income, $300, first week at work. Expenses, $168, groceries, CTA passes, basic utilities. Savings, $285, academic. Talk to coordinator, I can register until December 15th if I pay. Notes, work is physically demanding. Lifting boxes in the stockroom for 8 hours. My coworkers are good people and they've taught me a lot. For the first time, I understand what it means to earn money with real effort. That last line hit me. He was finally grasping what I'd tried to teach for years. By mid-November, he'd built a strict routine. Up at 5:30, quick breakfast, Blue Line into the city, 9 hours on the job, including breaks, home by 6 water, study until 10 Luso, sleep. The fourth report surprised me. Notes, stopped buying lunch at work, $15 a day, and started bringing homemade food. Saves me $90 a week. Also found a bus combo that saves me $3 a day if I walk 15 extra minutes. He was learning to optimize expenses, something he never needed to do before. By late November, he called out of the blue, the first time we'd spoken by phone since the move. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you manage our home, pay my school, buy food, and still save when I was a kid? The question moved me. He was finally seeing the complexity of running a household. I worked extra hours, made detailed budgets, and sacrificed my wants so you and Mom had what you needed. I had no idea it was that hard. I thought money just appeared. Money never appears, son. It's earned with effort, managed carefully, and spent responsibly. Dad, I want to apologize, but not like the empty apology I sent 2 months ago, a real apology. I understand now what every dollar you sent meant. I know how hard it was to buy that condo and that car, and I know how hurtful my words were. I appreciate that, I said, but more than apologies, I want to see sustained change. I know, I'm doing it. Tomorrow I'll pay my tuition. I saved the $3,800 working at Kroger. Pride and relief washed over me. My son had earned his tuition honestly. In December, his report started listing both money and grades: financial management, strategic management, international marketing, capstone. His marks were excellent, better than when I was funding everything and he had nothing to do but study. "How do you study after 9 hours of work?" I asked. "When time is limited, you focus better. Before I had all day and wasted it. Now I've got 3 hours at night and every minute counts." By January 2025, Andrew had built a discipline I'd never seen in him: balanced work, study, and rest. He increased his savings and began planning months ahead. The biggest shift came in the 3rd week of January. "Dad, I've thought a lot about last year. What I said wasn't just cruel. It showed an immature, entitled mindset I'd developed without realizing it. These months I've met coworkers supporting families on less than I make, and I finally understand what a privilege it was to have a father willing to sacrifice for me. I'm not just apologizing. I'm thanking you for making the hard call." For the first time in months, I felt like maybe I had my son back. On Thursday, February 15th, 2025, he called with news I'll never forget. His voice wasn't desperate anymore. It was steady, mature. "Dad, do you have a few minutes? First, my grades. I finished with a 3.6 GPA and passed all 3 classes I'd failed before. My coordinator said it's the best I've ever done." I felt a surge of pride. Real pride. "It's fantastic, son. And at Kroger, they offered me a shift supervisor position, what about $150 a month and a chance to learn management. Are you taking it?" I already did. For the first time, I feel like I'm building something, not just surviving. We talked for an hour, his daily routines, lessons from coworkers with tough lives, how his view of money and work had changed. "Dad, something else. Yesterday, I walked past the Hugo Boss store where I used to shop. I saw a shirt like the $400 one I bought in October. I did the math. That's about 27 hours of work at my current wage. Back when you sent me money, I never made that connection. Now I know every dollar is time, sweat, and focus." His words moved me deeply. He was finally understanding. "Son, that gives me hope. Dad, I want to do something formal. I want to write you a letter, by hand, like you taught me as a kid when we wrote thank yous at Christmas." A week later, a thick envelope arrived with my name written in the careful script I remembered from his childhood. The letter changed everything I thought about his progress. "Dear Dad, these 4 months living on a tight budget, working hard, and studying without your financial safety net gave me time to reflect on who I became. First, I want to say publicly what I told you on the phone. The words I said in September were unforgivable, not only cruel, but proof of entitlement and ingratitude I didn't see growing in me. Second, thank you for making the hardest decision a father can make, disciplining an adult son with real consequences. I know selling the condo and car wasn't revenge. It was love. Love strong enough to put my growth over my comfort. Third, here are specific changes I've made. I understand the real value of money. Every dollar is minutes of my life. I've learned to cook, clean, run a home, and budget. My grades improved because every class is a direct investment of money I earned. I've built a work ethic I never had, and my supervisors recognized it with a promotion. I've learned to enjoy free or low-cost activities. But most important, my mindset changed. The world doesn't owe me anything. I have to earn my place through effort and contribution. Dad, I'm not asking to go back to how things were. I don't want you to buy me another condo or car. I want a chance to rebuild our relationship on healthy ground. I'll keep working and studying until I graduate in December. Then I'll look for a job in my field, but I'll keep my humility and work ethic. If you're willing, I'd like us to have Sunday dinner together like we did when Mom was with us, not to ask for anything, but to spend time as father and son. I love you, and I hope to make you proud again. Your son, Andrew. When I finished, I cried for the first time since Susan's funeral, but this time from relief and hope. That afternoon, I wrote a short reply. Andrew, your letter moved me deeply. I accept your invitation to Sunday dinner. Love, Dad. That Sunday, February 23, 2025, marked a new chapter. Andrew arrived on time, something that used to be a problem. He wore simple, clean clothes, and for the first time in a long while, I saw the calm of someone who sleeps well after honest work. "Dad, before dinner, I want to show you something," he said, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. "I've been tracking every dollar I earn and spend for 5 months." He opened it, pages of neat entries, every dollar earned, spent, and saved, the kind of discipline I'd tried to teach for years. "Look at this," he said. "In October when I moved, I had $125 to my name. Today I've saved $240. Not a fortune, but it's mine, earned by me." His math was right. His categories were organized. I could see the month-by-month growth of someone learning to live within his means. "This is impressive," I said. "What's the plan for the savings?" 3 goals. First, build a $3,000 emergency fund before graduation. Second, buy my own laptop for job hunting. Third, save to get you something meaningful for your birthday in December. "You don't need to buy me anything," I said. "Dad, for 24 years you gave me everything, and I gave you nothing, not even basic respect at the end. I want to feel the joy of giving you something I earned." Over dinner, he told stories that revealed a maturity I hadn't known in him. He talked about co-workers who support entire families on less than he makes, single moms studying at night after working all day, students juggling jobs and classes without parents to bail them out. "And how's campus life?" I asked. "Completely different," he said. "Before, classes felt optional. Now every class costs real money I worked for. I take notes, do the readings, participate. My professors noticed." "And your old friends?" He paused. That was one of the hardest lessons. When I couldn't afford fancy restaurants and exclusive bars, most people drifted away. A lot of those friendships were transactional. Bills I picked up, rides in my car, parties at the condo. It hurt at first. Now I'm grateful I know the truth. I have fewer friends, but they're real. Co-workers who invite me to simple dinners, classmates who study with me in the library. After dinner, he kept his promise and brought market flowers to Susan's grave. At the headstone, Andrew knelt and spoke softly. "Mom, I know you've seen all this. I want to apologize for disrespecting Dad. He's been the father you and I always wanted him to be, and I was too immature to value him. I promise I'll honor your memory from now on." Hearing that beside Susan's grave was one of the most emotional moments of my life. In the weeks that followed, Sunday dinners became our routine. Each one proved that Andrew's change was genuine and lasting, not a performance to win back favors, but a deep transformation. At the end of March, he brought unexpected news. "Dad, my manager offered me a scholarship to do a master's in management. They'll cover tuition if I commit to working for them 2 years after graduation. And I'm accepting. It's an incredible opportunity, and it means I can build my career without depending on you." In April, exactly 6 months after moving to the modest house, Andrew asked for a special meeting. "Dad, I know the 6 months you promised are up. I want to keep paying the rent myself. I don't want to slip back into you covering my basics." "You sure? With your new supervisor pay, you could move somewhere nicer if I helped." "I'm sure. That house taught me to value what matters. I want to stay independent." In May, he graduated with honors in business administration. It was the proudest day I've had as a father since the day he was born. When I watched him cross the stage, I remembered those cruel words from 8 months earlier. "Wish you'd never been my father. Useless." After the ceremony, he walked up holding his diploma. "Dad, I want to dedicate this to you. Without the hard lesson you gave me, I never would have found the discipline to get here." "This achievement is yours," I said. "You earned it with work and grit." "Yes," he said, "but you taught me that real achievements come through effort. That's the most valuable lesson of my life." Today, as I write this, 8 months have passed since that painful September call. My son works as a shift supervisor at Kroger, studies his master's program at night, pays his own bills, and we've built a relationship based on mutual respect and real affection. I didn't get back the son I had before, because that irresponsible, ungrateful young man doesn't exist anymore. Instead, I have a relationship with a mature man who understands effort, appreciates family sacrifice, and knows that words carry consequences. Sometimes the most important lessons require painful decisions, but when a father's love is strong enough, even the hardest choices can lead to the most beautiful endings. If you like this story, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.